Hello loves! Today we're going to be talking all about e.l.f. brushes. I'm going to walk you through all of my favorite eye and face brushes that I think are perfect if you are a beginner or you just want to add some new brushes to your collection that are affordable. I'm constantly talking about different brushes and using a ton of different brands on my channel, which I do love. I have both affordable and more luxury brushes that I think are fantastic and definitely a good investment, because at the end of the day your makeup is going to look better if you have good makeup tools, and you can make any products work if you have good tools. But I get it. You don't want to drop that amount of money on brushes just yet. Maybe you want to just dip your toes in the water. I got you. So grab a snack, get cozy, and let's get into it. Starting off with eyeshadow. By the way, I'm going to be using the Makeup by Mario Master Mattes palette. This is the Neutrals palette. And I'm going to use the Smoky Eye Brush Kit, which has 5 eye brushes. And I like this actually too, because on the back, it shows you a little step-by-step 1 through 5 on how to use each brush. So let's start off with my favorite eye brush from e.l.f. and that is the Fluffy Eye Blender. This is a perfect crease brush that you can use for all of your soft brown colors, your transition shades, even if you like to just do bronzer in your crease. It's big, it's fluffy, it's soft. So I'm going to start off with pretty much my transition colors that I always like to use in this palette. With this brush, you can pretty much just take it and, like I said, apply it all up in your crease. I typically like to start on the outer portion, and then I just very lightly work it in pretty much about midway. Sometimes I bring it in all the way. You can see it does have a really nice fluffy shape and it just fits all over your lid. So with this kind of brush, I like to pretty much just drag my eyeshadow back and forth in my crease and all over the lid. And I'm gonna build it up, and I just love everything about this brush because it pretty much takes little to no effort and you can get a really nice smoky look. And it's also good for just all over blending as well because of that fluffy shape. So you can just see I literally just concentrate this in really light circular motions, and then I just blend right below my brow. So pretty much where my brow bone is, I'll just take the brush and swipe it back and forth. The hand motion is literally this, just back and forth. So I like to focus most of the color to start off on the outer lid, and I do really tiny little circular motions, and then I bring it into my crease and all over the lid. Sometimes I even like to take the product and kind of just swipe it with the brush as well, and then blend. Next up, I'm going to go in with the blending brush, which this is going to be great if you want to deepen up your crease just a little bit more. It is smaller than the Fluffy Eye Blender brush, so that's why I said you can use it for your crease or just to concentrate deeper, darker shades. It's fluffy, but it does have a little bit of a flat shape to it. So what I like to do is typically take, let's say, like a darker brown. I'm going to use this one in the palette. I just apply the product right on the tip of that brush, and then what I like to do personally is just start deepening up the outer portion and applying that color to the outer lid. Since it is flat, I'm literally just using tapping motions to tap that darker color wherever I want to first. You could even use the tip of the brush if you want to concentrate that product as well. So I put it down first, lay it down wherever you want, build it up, tap, and then you could also even, since the brush is a little bit flatter, you can really fit that color and that brush right on the outer crease. So where the fold of my eye is, I can really concentrate that darker brown in that area and just go back and forth. And then kind of also swipe that darker eyeshadow on my lid, since again the brush is flat but still has some fluffiness to it. You could, if you wanted to too, use this to swipe color all over your lid. Like I said, these are very multi-purpose, multi-use. You don't have to use each brush for what it's designated for. You make the rules in your makeup routine. And I definitely recommend, when you're doing your eyeshadow especially, having 2 mirrors as you're getting ready. So have a handheld one on hand, and then also I like to have a mirror like this. This one I got from TJ Maxx, and just to get a bigger picture as I'm doing my makeup. And this one I keep a little bit further away from me so I can see what I'm doing, but then I can also have this mirror so I can really see what I'm doing up close and personal. Now I want to shout out a brush that is not a part of that eye brush kit. We're going to go back to some of those brushes, but I think honestly you cannot go wrong with different blending brushes. They just go such a long way. But I love this crease brush. Compared to the fluffy eye blender brush, it's pretty much like a smaller version of that. It's not as fluffy, but it's still fluffy enough. It's soft and it has a little bit of a taper to it. So I think it is also perfect, maybe if you have smaller eyes, or if you want to concentrate even more product into this area, but you want something a little bit smaller than even the blending brush that I just showed you. The shapes are different. It's just a smaller little blending brush, basically. I like this for even deeper, darker shades. For instance, this gray toned color right here. Sometimes I want these kind of colors, but I want them really lightly in my look. So I'll take that brush, and you can put this, let's say, all over the lid. You can put it on the outer lid as well. And you see with this, you can really concentrate the product a little bit more precisely because it is a smaller blending brush. But if you want to, you can, let's say you want to add this kind of brown tone shade in the crease. You can take this and just really lightly focus that brown color or whatever color you want right onto your brow bone. See how it's a little bit smaller, so you're able to bring in some of that color, but it doesn't look too harsh, and it's just really soft. So it's just honestly, again, a very multi-use, multi-purpose brush that fits everywhere and that you can use it to blend or to deepen up any of your looks as well. So this brush is really for those times when maybe you want to add a little bit more color to your look, but you don't want to do too much. This is the perfect not too much kind of brush. Now, if you want to lighten up your eyeshadow just a little bit, the eyeshadow C brush is a nice addition. I do wish it was a little bit flatter. I prefer something like that, but that's total personal preference. You can totally use this kind of brush for matte shades, I would say, all over your lid. You could use it for shimmers. I'll show you an example in a minute, but let's just say, for instance, you want to lighten this up a little bit with this color right here. You can just take that and just really tap it on the lid. Tap it until you get it as light as you like, and then you can even use whatever product is on that brush to do some all over blending. But again, for me, this is when I would go back into that fluffy eye blender brush and just blend away any lines instead with this, because it's just a little bit more flexible. But you see how that just lightened that area up a little bit. If you want to even take it there and do it even lighter with that matte white shade, you can just pack it on. Now, I say for mattes, this would be a little bit better, just because I feel like with shimmers, it might not pick up the shimmer or the glitter that you have in your eyeshadow as well, because it's not super flat. I have another brush for that. If you did still want to use it for shimmers or glitters with this brush, I recommend spraying your brush with a setting spray. Dip it in the eyeshadow first and then spray it. You don't always have to do that. It depends too on the finish that you're looking for. If you really want to take it there, just use your finger. But I like this for lightening up the lid, especially with matte shades, because I feel like it picks up a good amount of that product. I do think it fits nicely into this area as well. It's soft and flat, but it still has some type of density to it. You could even use that really small crease brush that I showed you if you wanted to just very lightly blend out the harsh lines as well. The same brush will work, again, if you have any type of glitter. I'm going to use this little glitter that I have from Hourglass. It's the Scattered Light Glitter. It does pick up the glitter, but again, if you really want it to stick the product a little bit more concentrated onto your lids, spray your brush for that very intense glitter effect. If not, I just applied some on the back of my hand to show you. You're still going to get that pigment and that glitter with the eyeshadow. This one is in the color Ray, by the way, but it's just going to be a little bit lighter and less concentrated, so it's totally up to you. I'll show you this over top. So if you want a little bit of that kind of lighter glitter and you don't want it to be too intense, you can use this brush dry and just tap that eyeshadow all over wherever you like, which I do think this look is really pretty because it just looks like very sheer sparkles. You might get a little bit more fallout without spraying your brush as well when working with colors like this, but you can see it does pick up the glitter really nicely. It just does it in a lighter way. Then I love the small angled brush for doing a little shadow wing. You guys know this is my signature at this point, but this is such a great brush, even for gel liner, but I love it for eyeshadow because it's very easy to work with and it picks up a good amount of the eyeshadow, and it just fits really nicely right on the outer part of the lid. So I kind of just mixed the black and brown. You could use any darker eyeshadow that you like, and I pretty much like to just take the color and start on the outer corner and just flick it out. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're gonna clean it up, and then from here you can just take that eyeshadow towards right on the middle part of the lid and just kind of connect that towards the outer portion. If you ever want to get into eyeliner but you don't really want to use a liquid liner, a gel, I always tell you guys, do a shadow wing. It is so much easier. If you mess up, it's a lot easier to clean up. It's just overall more forgiving, and I think it looks really pretty and a little bit softer too. The last brush in the smoky eye kit is the Small Precision. This is a really thin, flat brush that you could use for a bunch of different things. I really like it for the brow bone if you want to take a matte shade or a shimmer shade and just apply that right under there. It makes your brow bone pop. I like it too because it is so small, so it just fits everywhere. And you could also use that to apply a color to your inner corners. I love to do this with matte shades, but again, it also works really well with shimmers. You can kind of just tap that in and blend it out to lighten up and brighten up your inner corners. And now I have two more brushes that I think are also great additions to your looks. So the next one is a concealer brush. You could use this for cleaning up your brows if you like to do that as well, because it is flat but dense. However, you could also use it if you want to concentrate shimmers on your lid. With this concealer brush, you could really focus those shimmers a little bit more precisely onto your lids, and I feel like it's going to pack on your shimmers a little bit more versus the other brush where it's going to give you more of that kind of very scattered light effect on your lids. And I really like flat brushes like this for different finishes with my eyeshadow when I apply color on the lid. But it's total personal preference. I know, like, this is kind of just me being very particular, but if you like to do certain shimmers and you really like to, let's say, carve out your lid with these kind of colors, you're able to do that with this brush because it's a lot smaller than the eyeshadow C brush. And then the last brush that I love to complete any smoky look is the eye contour brush. This is a rounded domed brush that you could use to smoke out eyeshadow on your lower lash line. You can use it to smoke out any like of your top lash line. You could use it even for the inner corner as well. It's a little bit bigger, but I really like it for the lower lash line. If you ever want to use any soft brown tones on that area, you just take this brush and very lightly drag it along your lower lash line. Now, again, this is one of those things that's a little bit more niche. You might not do this in your makeup routine. It's not always necessary. You can, of course, always make it work with other brushes in the kit as well. But I think this is a nice addition, and you could probably get multi uses out of this brush as well. But I love it for the lash line. I just added some more gold shimmer, but this is a really good brush too for layering different shimmers or glitters on your lid. I'm just using this gold one here from this LA Girl palette. I love it because I feel like it really packs a punch with your shades and it makes them pop. For foundation, I'm going to use the Ultimate Blending Brush. This is going to be fabulous for all of your creams and liquids. Today I'm using the House Labs foundation. This is such a good, dense but yet still really soft brush. It's a little bit rounded, so I think it just fits really nicely on the face for foundation. So with my foundation brushes, I like to tap the product in just to really get the most out of my products. You can use it for cream bronzer. I'll show you this brush and then another one that I love. I'm using my Rare Beauty bronzer stick. This one is in the shade Happy Soul. So I like this brush because I do think it fits nicely into the areas that you need it to. Another brush I love for the complexion is the Complexion Duo brush. This one, compared to the Ultimate Blending, is a little bit smaller, but it does have that rounded shape. It's not as dense, but I think, again, either or, you could use it for creams and liquids. I like it because it's a little bit smaller, so I feel like I can concentrate product a little bit more precisely. I also do like the little concealer side. You can use it for nose contour. You can use it for just more precision blending. I know a lot of people don't really like dual-ended brushes because of sanitary reasons, so if that's the case, I would just go with the Ultimate Blending. You could even get 2 of these brushes because I think they're just good to have. But I like them both. I think whichever one you get, you really won't be disappointed. This one's a little bit smaller, and like I said, it's not as dense, so it has a bit more flexibility versus the Ultimate Blending. But they both fit really nicely. I really like this one too for blush because I think it fits really nicely too right on the apples of your cheeks, but either or, I think they're both really nice. But the Ultimate Blending is not that much bigger than the Complexion Duo, but it is a little bit, just for size reference. And then I'll show you the same brushes with liquid blush. I'm going to use the Cheek Kiss Liquid Blush Glow from Milani in the shade 160. So with the Complexion Duo, I just think it fits really nicely for blush. And like I said, since it is a little bit more flexible, it kind of just blends everything really effortlessly. It's quick with this brush too. And then this is the Ultimate Blending. See, it's a little bit bigger. I think honestly I like the Complexion Duo a little bit more for blush just because it is smaller. Now let's get into concealer. I'm using my House Labs concealer. I love the Flawless Concealer brush. This is an OG for me. I've been using it for years. And lately I've actually been loving it for the under eyes because I do think it gives you such a soft, very natural look with your concealer. I like the shape. I like to kind of just go in really light circular motions. If you like a sponge, the Camo Concealer Sponge is still one of my favorites. Even though I do prefer a brush nowadays, I do think this is a great sponge for concealer. I think it has a good shape. It doesn't absorb an excess amount of product. You could use it to build up your products as well. I'm going to do a little bit more on this side because I have another brush to show you on the other side, but see, it just fits really nicely into the under eyes. I love it. I love the little point to it. I love how it's a little bit slimmer. It's just a good sponge. So this is classic for me. It's a good one. Now, this is a little bit of a newer discovery. Technically, it's not a concealer brush. It's called the Putty Bronzer Brush. It's bigger. It's a little bit more dense, of course, than the Flawless Concealer Brush because, again, it's not a concealer brush. But I think you could use this Putty Bronzer Brush for concealer if you're into something a bit more dense and with an angle to it. So you can see the shape is completely different than the Flawless Concealer, but I love angled brushes like this for the under eye. So let me show you. It is bigger, but I still think it fits pretty nicely into this area. So that could be an option if you like a bigger concealer brush. The Putty Bronzer Brush is great. Now we're gonna set all of the powders down. Let's start off with the under eyes first. I recently discovered these pinky under eye puffs. They come in a 3-pack. They're $6. I love them for the under eyes because I think they're a really good shape. They are a little bit thicker compared to most puffs. So when you're using it, you could even kind of like squeeze it down to really press in the puff to your under eye. I'm going to use some loose powder. That's what I personally love to use these puffs with, but they do work great with pressed powder as well. So whenever I apply any loose powder onto my puff, I like to wipe off the excess. You could just do it right on the back of your hand, just so that you're not doing too much and just so the powder looks really smooth onto the little applicator. And then with this, I just tap it right on my under eyes, and again, pressing motions. I do pressing motions a lot, pretty much with all of my products for the most part, besides blush, typically. Because you want to make sure that you're setting everything without moving any of your products underneath. This works nicely too for touch-ups throughout the day, or if you want to just kind of maybe do a little bit of powder more precisely right onto your T-zone. I love the shape of it. e.l.f. actually has a bigger version to this puff, but I like the smaller ones more. Oh, I forgot to do nose contour. It's okay, we're gonna do it. Now for pressed powder, this is my tried and true, the powder brush. I love how it's a flat top brush. It's just the best. This is really great for pressing in your powders, whether you have powder foundation, pressed powder, any kind of powder. This is the brush. And I like it again because when you are setting your makeup, you want to get the most out of your products, and I feel like when you tap them into your skin, it's going to absorb any oil, shine, it's going to look really smooth. So tapping motions. I also love this brush at the end of all my makeup if I want to blend out anything, if I did a little bit too much blush or too much bronzer. This is just a good kind of like little erasing brush because you can use whatever powder is left over to blend away any harsh lines, any imperfections, and just maybe tone down any of your products if you did too much blush or too much bronzer. Now let's do that nose contour that I forgot to show you, but the e.l.f. nose contour brush is top tier. I really like this because it's dual ended, so you have one side that is a little bit still dense but has that very sharp edge, so it's perfect for really concentrating your creams right down the sides of your nose. Like I said, I typically do this before powder, but we're going to do it again here today. I'm going to use the Rare Beauty bronzer stick. Typically, if you want to really contour, you want to use something that isn't as warm, that has a bit more of an ashy tone, but I'm going to just use the Rare Beauty one today just to show you. But I love the sharp edge that this brush has because you can draw those two lines right down your nose so easily. And then you can use the fluffy side of that brush, which is angled, but it has some fluffiness to it, to blend everything in. If you are not good at nose contouring, raise your hand. Me, it's okay. I'm not either, but this brush makes it so easy. You could even add a powder if you wanted to. I'm going to use this one from Hailey's Beauty. It has a bit more of that kind of ashy tone. It's in the shade Light. It's a smoothing contour powder. And you can use it to set down that cream and just enhance it a little bit. Now let's move into powder blush and powder bronzer. For powder brush, I love the Flawless Face Brush. This is one of those multi-purpose brushes that you could use for even if you want to just dust powder very lightly onto your face and you don't really want to concentrate it as much like I did with the powder brush. If you want to just a light little dusting, this is a nice brush for it. You could use it for blush too. You could even use it for powder bronzer, which is what I like. I like it because it is fluffy, has a little bit of a taper, and it's a little bit dense but not too much. So I'm gonna just use my Milani Silky Matte Bronzer just to kind of touch up my forehead. Not that I really need it, but just to show you. And I really like to stipple the product in, and I just think this gives you such a seamless powdered bronzer application. Now for blush, I love the angled blush brush because it has an angle to it, but it still has some fluffiness to it as well. I'm going to use Bacon Cakes from Fenty. And I like to put this right on the apples of my cheeks and go up towards my temples a little bit. With this brush shape, you can pretty much fit it very nicely right onto your cheeks. This works good with matte blushes, glowy blushes. It's going to pick up the perfect amount of product and just give you that little touch of color. I also really like it for glowy blushes because I don't really use a lot of highlighter anymore. You could even use this brush for highlighter. You could just swipe the highlighter right onto the high points of your face. You can use the edge of the brush to concentrate the product on there, or you could just use a glowy blush and just add more color, but also get a glow with this as well. This is Milani Rose Doro Baked Blush. Down the nose. So those are all of my favorite e.l.f. brushes. Let me know your favorites down below. For me, if I only had to choose one brush from e.l.f., it would be the Ultimate Blending Brush. This just never fails me. It's such a good brush. It's so versatile and it's amazing quality for the price. So check the description box for all of the brushes. I will have them listed there in the order that I used them. Thank you guys for being here. Make sure to subscribe for new videos every week, and I'll see you very soon in my next one.